Welcome to episode of Sitting Courtside. Today is, guys, it's still the preseason. You will know what day it is when you're watching it, all right? We will have this out at least before Sunday, but maybe you're watching on Monday. I don't know. Or what we've talked about this. We're trying some new things. Hope you guys like the new versions of the podcast. We're making it a little bit more bite-sized for you, hopefully. With this episode, it's a test. Okay, guys? For anyone's watched for the last 4 years, we're not exactly gurus. We're trying to make it better, though, for you, the people. So with that, I'll pass it over to the Wonder Boy himself. Kyle, tell us what we're talking about today.
All right, this is one of my favorite episodes every single season. We're not switching up the format here. We are going with our future picks, 4 or 5 future picks for the college basketball season, along with we of course have to tell you our champion and our player of the year or win award, and we might even sprinkle in some long shots along the way on this. But of course, I like Jordan just said, we're going to try to make these a little shorter. So we limit it to 4 and 5. We're not going to pick every single conference or every single player or talk about every player of the year. So yeah, a little bit shorter this season. So let's go ahead and start right off the top with your first future bet of the season.
All right. This should come as no surprise to anyone that listened to the first episode. And I think you know
Okay.
exactly where I'm going with this.
Okay.
I love, which means it might be a terrible pick, but I love Illinois to win the Big
Yeah,
Ten. Get it
I
at
knew you were
plus
going to win.
1,000. That is amazing value. And if you don't know why I'm making that pick, listen to the last episode. I
Yeah,
think I gave
exactly.
1,000 reasons why, and it must have been pretty convincing because I got Kyle on board to be like, you know what, Illinois might be legit, and we've talked about this. The Big Ten. What is the Big Ten? We don't know. They only have 3 teams that are ranked, and realistically, depending on what poll you're looking at, the last team is either Illinois or Rutgers.
Yeah.
I don't trust Indiana, and I definitely don't trust Purdue right now because I need to see it from them. So why not Illinois? Why not? I think that's amazing value at plus 1,000. So that was my first best bet of the year.
Love it. Love it. And I forgot to say this right off the top. Please shop around on these because I
Yeah.
have 3 different books on my phone and they are so all over the place. So I'm going to, just like Jordan gave you the odds, I'm going to give you the odds and where I found this too, because I was noticing they're all different because they're future bets. So there's so much different like weight on what that book actually thinks or what bets have already come in.
Yeah.
So
I will, on that note, please do shop. I will say just for continuity, every single one of my odds are going to be from DraftKings, but that's just
okay.
the book I use the most. It's not the only book I use though. But again, if you're wanting to do that, do that. Otherwise, yeah, shop around because they will give different odds, especially on futures.
And when we talk about our champions, I'll tell you what different odds I found. So that's just that'll show
Even
you
better.
what different things are. But my very first one, again, if you haven't listened to the first pod, go back because I was talking about this might be our podcast team. I'm going to go with UAB to win the American Conference at plus 400 on DraftKings. I said it last pod, 23 wins last year, and they returned 3 of their top 4 players along with 3 big transfers. The favorite is Memphis, who we are not fans of Memphis
Yeah.
anymore from last year. And they always kind of just underachieve for the amount of talent they have. There's 2 years removed from Houston not being in the American. FAU now doesn't have their studs. I think plus 400 for UAB, something that we'll be monitoring all season. I love this bet.
I actually was surprised that it was that low. I was expecting their odds to be a little bit longer. And you
Mm-hmm.
convinced me on that team, I will say. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're on to something and Vegas knows it's there because those are not long shot odds by any means. And you look at the future
Yeah.
books. So
And also, one more thing that I forgot to say off the top is I actually went through and bet all of these. I know like you guys see our bets every single day when
yeah.
we post them, but as I was doing the research for all this, I went ahead and bet it. So my money's in on these. So join with us and we can pay attention to them all season. So what's your second one?
All right, second one. This again, value play. A lot of my picks here are going to be a lot of value. I have Boise to win the Mountain West at plus 475. We talked about this
Yeah.
a little bit last episode. It's really probably a 3-horse race if we're talking about it. It's Boise, Colorado State, UNLV.
Yeah.
However, Boise has only the third best odds in the conference. I think that's a massive miss by the books. They have
Mhm.
New Mexico, who is dog trash, and Nevada, who we all know you do not like for
Nope,
your
definitely do
reasons,
not.
as the top 2 picks. And I do not like either of those teams for multiple reasons, which we will get into later in the year.
Yep.
Boise as the third best odds in what I consider to be a 3-horse race, no pun intended. There's just value there. Like
Yeah.
clearly the books think that they have an obvious shot. Why not take it? Because at this point, who has a better chance than them?
Mhm.
And you got to trust Vegas because, again, walking through those odds, UNLV is a tournament team, plus 900. You could say, oh, there's more value there, but again, sometimes Vegas knows what they're doing.
Yep.
Believe it or not, I'm willing to put my money on Boise to win more so than I am to put my money on UNLV at a long shot.
Yep. And let's be honest, if you're making future bets, you don't really want to bet a minus 120.
Yeah.
You're tying up your money for 5 months or whatever. You want to at least get some good odds on that. So I love that pick. Definitely support Boise State winning the Mountain West. All right, so this is probably my lowest odds of like a full season future. It is Houston at plus 280 on DraftKings to win the Big 12. I mean, Kansas is favorite every single year, but literally the first year that Houston joined the Big 12, they beat Kansas. They were absolutely amazing last year. They have only lost 11 games combined in the last 4 years. They just don't lose. They finished top 5 in KenPom in every single year of those 4 years. And they don't have Jamal Shed, but they have 4 other 5 starters from last year, and they have a Uzan from Oklahoma who started 56 games at point guard in the last 2 years, so he's filling in for Shed. I think this is the year. I'll talk about them a little bit later with Houston, but I think they're poised to win the Big 12, and I'm not going to be shocked if they actually win by like multiple games in the Big 12.
I have a really bad feeling now about what you're foreshadowing.
Oh no.
Okay, that's fair. I don't disagree with all the things you said, and I will also talk about Houston later, maybe.
All right, perfect.
All right, so my next pick here, I'm going to go with Arkansas to win the SEC at plus 1,200.
Okay.
This is essentially Kentucky from last year, who got second in this conference. All right. They also get the transfer from Auburn. Golly, again, name is slipping my mind. But this is a legitimate team, all right? They essentially, like I said, finished second in the conference last year as Kentucky. And then we have 5, what I consider to be 5 true, quote-unquote, difficult road games the entire year in the conference. They have at Tennessee to start the conference schedule. They have at Kentucky immediately following that, which is that a tough game?
Can't wait to watch
I don't know
that.
if that's even a tough game. They have at Texas A&M, at Texas, and at Auburn as their last game of the conference schedule. All of those are very winnable games, with maybe their toughest test being to start the year at Tennessee. Every other game is at home. And their non-conference schedule, quite frankly, does not scare me by any means. Like, they have a pretty easy schedule. So, like, if you go to strength of schedule and or just overall record, I like Arkansas to win that conference. Like, it's someone's going to do something crazy. We could say Bama, but we've seen where Bama has faltered when it's supposed to be them. So I think there's a ton of value at plus 1,200. And if anyone can win it, it's definitely Arkansas.
All right, so we obviously been doing this for 5 years. We spend way too much time talking college basketball because I will talk about them later as well. But I'll move on to my third one. This one I thought was really fun. It's not great odds, but I thought it was really fun because it actually ends before December. So you're not even having to go that far into the future. It is the ACC to win less than 6.5 games in the ACC SEC Challenge at minus 125. And you can only find that in the books I have on BetMGM. So get this. The SEC is minus 225 to win the challenge. There's a total of 16 games, so they have to win at least 9. So they're basically saying at 225, they're going to win 9 or more games. At minus 130, you can get the SEC to win over 9.5 games. So if they're going to win 10 games to hit that bet, that means the ACC can only win 6. So you're actually getting the best odds of the 3 if you take the ACC under at minus 125. And honestly, there's only 2 teams ranked in the top 25 for the ACC. It's Duke and UNC. We both know they're probably going to be pretty good teams, but they both play really hard home games in this tournament or in this challenge. It's number 11, Auburn plays Duke, and number 2, Alabama plays UNC. So those aren't given. And the SEC has 8 ranked teams. I think they kind of run away with this challenge. And at minus 125 to win at least 10 games, I think you take the ACC under the 6.5 games.
I love that bet. I love that bet so much because I'm already like going through my head. I don't even know all the matchups, but I'm going through my head. Who could the ACC even beat? And to your point, they're going to have to lean heavily on probably like those top 6 games in the conference. They have to win half of those to even compete. And then after that, they might get lucky and get like NC State to beat Ole Miss.
Something like that. Yeah.
I like that bet. I like that a lot.
All right. What's up next for
here? Next one. We're going to go old school for the people. They're going to know instantly. I've got Xavier to win the Big East at plus 1,000 Okay. Now, hear
Okay.
me out on this. The Big East is an absolutely loaded conference. They're loaded. Like, plus 1,000 in this conference probably legitimately is a long shot. However, they're a French top 25 team. They have 3 returning players from last year's roster. Okay. You're like, well, that doesn't sound good. You're right, because guess what? 2 of them didn't play any minutes last year. And the other one that did play minutes, he was a freshman.
Okay.
But those 2 guys had major minutes in 22, 23. They didn't play because of injury.
Okay.
Plus, the good old thing we always love to talk about, senior leadership. Okay.
Yep.
This team, Sean Miller, has brought in 7 transfers. Okay. He
Holy.
has
Okay.
really worked the portal. 5 of those 7 transfers are on their last year of eligibility, which means
Oh,
they have
okay.
tons of
Yeah.
leadership, but it gets better, Kyle. 4 out of the 5 are on their COVID year.
Oh, okay. So
We have
that's
ourselves a bunch of 25-year-olds
I love this. I
playing
love this.
18 and 19-year-olds. Okay. They are going to figure it out and win the big game or win the close game. The only thing they got to figure out beyond that is early in the season is how do these basically 12 players meld together to make a good
Yep.
team, which leads me to a fun trivia question, Kyle.
Oh shoot. Okay.
When
Well,
was the
this.
last time Sean Miller had a losing season at Xavier?
Oh my goodness. I have no idea. I'll say 11 years ago. I have no idea.
That was a trick question. Sean Miller's never had a losing season at
Okay.
Xavier,
There you
so
go.
he is going to figure it out with this group. I love this bet. I might love it more than I love Illinois to win the Big Ten, to be
Okay.
quite frank, because they're going to be sneaky. They're going to win close games, and we've seen it the last 2 years in the Big East. They eat each other alive, and it does
Uh,
come down to those 1 and 2 point games that maybe you weren't supposed to win, but you figured it out. When you got that type of leadership and experience on a team, they're going to figure it out.
and this is complete role reversals. If you guys have been listening for the last 4 years, everyone knows I love Xavier. So like I am
Yes.
completely on this. I just wish I would have found this one for this
Yeah.
podcast. I absolutely love it.
I told you it was old school. We're going
Uh-huh.
old school with you and
Yep.
your Xavier love.
I will be placing this bet right after the podcast for sure. So, all right. So you love that bet. I love that bet. And I'm now going to pull out my favorite bet that I have on this entire list. Okay.
Okay.
So this is why I said shop around because I got Western Kentucky to win Conference USA at plus 430 on FanDuel. On FanDuel, make sure you go to FanDuel because they're the 4th favorite to win the conference. If you head over to BetMGM or if you head over to DraftKings, they're actually the favorite to win Conference USA. And if you look at the coaches poll that they took for the conference, they picked them to finish second only by 1 vote. It was different. So like the value you get on FanDuel compared to almost anywhere else is crazy. They return their leading score 15 points per game, along with 3 other starters, and they added 3 transfers or injured players from last year to their rotation. I think this is an absolute mistake by FanDuel. I think the other books have it right as either being the favorite or second. I think this is a stacked mid-major roster. I can't wait to watch this throughout, but at 430, I love this, and I really do think you got a hell of a deal here on FanDuel. So you got to go get it now, but I love this.
Yeah, because we're going to move books. People are going to find out about the FanDuel move, and you're going to get it at 370.
Yep, exactly.
Next week. All right, that's fair. All right, I have one more best bet out here, and honestly, this is my if not now, when bet.
Okay.
I got Alabama to make the Final Four plus 240.
Love it. Love it.
If not now, when? It's
Yeah,
not going to happen for
exactly.
them if it doesn't happen this year. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, so if not now, when?
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
I'll take them. I know plus 242, I will admit, like to your point, you got to go put this in and basically just wait for 6 months
Yeah, exactly.
or longer. But sometimes you just need a win,
Yep.
and maybe that's what you need when you're down in the depths and you're like, damn it, my bracket's busted. But then all of a sudden you get a Bama plus 240 hit. And you're like, all right, I'm back in it. Let's go,
Remember that $100 I put way back in early November on them? Yeah.
So that'll be my final best bet. What about you, Kyle? What else do you have on the docket?
I only have player of the year and the champion.
All right, let's move over. Let's move over.
All right.
Then, yeah.
Let's move over to player of the year, or what everyone else calls the Wooden Award. The favorites are, these are according to DraftKings. It is RJ Davis at plus 700, Dickinson at 750, Mark Sears at plus 800. If you were lucky enough, or depending on if you actually want to bet this guy or not, if you can find a book that offers Cooper Flag, I found it at plus 700. So those are the favorites. I'm going to list a few of my long shots and then I'll pass it over to you. Okay.
Love it.
All right. Ryan Kalkbrenner, Creighton, plus 4,000. If you can't take down, if they can take down UConn and he averages just 3 more points and 3 more rebounds, so it'd give him 20 points, 10 rebounds, three
Yep.
blocks a game.
Yep.
I think he could do it. Also, like Graham Ike from Gonzaga, again, he's got the same style of like stat sheet. It's at plus 4,500. If he goes 20-10 and they only lose like 5 or less games, I could see if nobody else goes crazy that he gets it. And then my last long shot, and this is somebody I really wanted to find like a player of the year in the ACC prop, but I couldn't find that anywhere. Hunter Salas for Wake Forest. He absolutely came alive last year after he transferred from Gonzaga to Wake Forest. He averaged 18 points. I think he can get that up to 23. This is a plus 5,000 bet. If they shock the world and actually win the ACC, I could see Hunter Salas getting player of the year. Obviously, these are a little bit longer shots, but those are the three guys I like to just put a little bit of money, which is what I did earlier on those three guys.
Yep. So I laughed and kind of did like the.
Yep.
So Kalkbrenner was actually, I was between him and the other guy I'm going to talk about. And the reason I decided not to go with Kalkbrenner is because of the fact that he is at Creighton.
Yeah.
And I think his position. So I think everyone has gotten a little bit exhausted with the center, with Edey.
Yep.
I think it's boring. I know he's a great three-point shooter. Don't get me wrong. Kalkbrenner is a good three-point shooter. I just think he's going to have to be a hell of a lot better than everyone else to even have a chance. I think people are looking for reasons to find the exciting player.
Yeah,
which is why I decided to go with my long shot as Wade Taylor.
Okay,
plus 6,000. We all know the talent he has. We talked about Texas A&M in the last podcast, and if they can just figure it out, get a win against Alabama, or at least finish second in that conference but behind an Alabama or in Arkansas, I think he puts himself in a really good position.
Yeah.
I really do. And he's a type of player that is exciting that people can get behind.
Yep.
And I think even if we are in this span of like, we don't want to see the same names constantly as far as the schools, A&M is big enough to get national attention, but not so big that you're like tired of the Dukes and the North Carolinas. Whereas Creighton is kind of honestly more of a household name in college basketball, but it's not going to get a ton of attention nationally because of the conference that they're in.
Stuck on FS1 every Friday night, basically.
Exactly, right. Or you get the classic 11:30 game that me and you watch on Saturday, but like no one else knows exists. With that, I will move into my favorite.
Yep, go ahead.
So before I name my favorite here, anyone that put money on this player, I feel sorry for you because you waste your money. And for any of you that thought about putting your money on it, don't, because he's a waste of money. Who am I going to say, Kyle?
I don't know.
Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah, okay.
He is trash, buddy.
Yes.
Trash. I was on that train 2 years ago, and I will never make that mistake again. Him being the second best odds is the books just hoping some jabroni or Goomba freaking looks at the book and goes, "Oh, we'll go with this guy."
Yeah.
No, he's trash. He's not even the best player on his team.
I know.
He's not even the third best player on his team.
Yeah.
It's insane to me.
Yeah.
All right. So who I'm going to go with here, should be no surprise. I'm going Mark Sears plus 800. Guard from Alabama. You're making it look like maybe you have the same guy here. I mean, it's just it's an obvious pick. I think I said it. I think Alabama might be the best team in the country, and he might be the best player on the best team in the country. Where have we seen that formula before?
Yep.
At plus 800, I'm willing to bite.
Yeah, I couldn't believe honestly the odds for the favorites. Like last year, these odds were like plus 200, plus 250 for all the favorites. We got plus 700 is the lowest that you can go. Well,
and I think that's why like someone like Wade Taylor at plus 6,000, that's not shocking because it is. When you look through there, I personally feel like the only player that's going to actually run away with it would be Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
And I talked about it last episode. I couldn't find it anywhere. Apparently you found it somewhere. That's great.
Yeah.
Plus 700 though, even like, okay. But it's kind of anyone's game this year. There's not one specific guy and or team where you're like, that's the guy or that's the team. So, I mean, yeah, I even was cycling down, like, let's find someone like 10,000 plus that might make a run. That's
what I was looking for.
But like right now at the books, all they're doing essentially is just taking like the third or fourth best player from every top 25 team. It's like that. You're going to have to wait a couple weeks and maybe someone stirs up from like a mid-major conference, like maybe a Gonzaga player. I don't know.
Yep.
But even like Nimhard from there, he was top 10 in
Uh-huh.
the odds. So I don't know. It isn't anyone's race right now.
So when you were talking about Wade Taylor, I felt like you were describing the guy I picked. And then you went on to who you actually picked, and I was like, well, he did all the same research because he picked the same exact guy I did. So I
Wow.
also have Mark Sears at plus
Okay.
800. It would not
It's
shock me if he scores 25 points per game, leads the nation in scoring. He ups it from 21-4-4 last year to 25-5-5. He shot 43% from three last year. He can shoot 40 again this year. But the biggest part of this is he is going to be on our TV every
yes.
freaking week. They
Yes.
play 15 games against currently ranked teams, including 6 games in less than a month before the new year. So you're going to see them a ton. And the only ranked game in that 6 game stretch they don't play a ranked team is against Illinois. So all these games are going to be nationally televised, and the focus is going to be solely on him. Like, I just don't see if he actually can keep that shooting percentage up from three
Yeah.
on an incredibly fast-paced team. I just don't see how anyone can keep up with the stats he's going to throw up.
Yeah. It'll be Edie like last year. It was over by
Mhm.
Christmas.
Yep, exactly. Well, that's a little I couldn't believe we both picked the same thing. And when you're describing
You
Wade
said it
Taylor, I'm
earlier.
just
Like you could tell we've definitely been doing this show for a while and somehow have gotten into each other's brains.
uh-huh. Yep. And with this next portion,
I'm
nothing
so
really
scared about
changes.
what's going to happen here in this next portion.
All right. So next up and last on the podcast will be who our title picks are, but we'll start it off with favorites and long shots. The favorites currently are UConn. And again, this is going to be DraftKings, but let me tell you what DraftKings has compared to FanDuel. UConn's plus 900, Kansas plus 1,000, Duke plus 1,000, Bama plus 1,000. If you move it over to FanDuel, Duke is plus 950, Bama, Kansas, and UConn are plus 1,100. So if you're going to bet Duke, make sure you go with that on DraftKings. If you're going to bet anybody else in that top four, go with it on FanDuel. Do you want to start with your long shots?
I do have long shots.
Okay.
Again, none of these will come as a surprise based on what we just talked about with Player of the Year. My dark horses here are going to be Creighton plus 4,500 for
Yeah.
all the reasons we already talked about. Kalkbrenner, Creighton. I think that we thought they're going to make a run last year. They kind of
Yeah.
stumbled, had some injuries. If they're going to do it, it's going to have to be this year. If they're going to make at least a run, in which
Uh-huh.
case maybe instead of the championship, maybe do Final Four.
Yeah.
And the other team, again, that I just love the odds because, again, it's a team we thought was going to be amazing last year. They have the firepower, and they definitely have the team that could beat Alabama because they do a similar style of play with maybe better defense. And that's Texas A&M at plus 6,500.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, those are my long shots. And again, I will highly stress, highly stress, those are long shots.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Please,
Yeah.
God, do not put more than like a tenth or like 20% of a unit on any of
Yeah.
those.
Exactly. So I'll go with my couple long shots. They're not huge long shots. One's plus 3,000, the other one's plus 6,000. But let's just be honest. College basketball, you're not going to go way down the list and find
You're
one that
not.
you love. You mentioned this team earlier, Arkansas, plus 3,000 this year. I'm going to go to on FanDuel. It's plus 2,500 on DraftKings. Loaded roster with potentially 4 first-round draft picks. Calipari could be rejuvenated, going to a new squad. I think he might get this team. It might be a little bit of a slower start, but you said their preseason or their pre-conference schedule isn't that daunting. I didn't really look into it, but I think he's one of those coaches that gets them rolling in March. So I like them at plus 3,000.
Okay, that's fair. It's the next
The
one.
next one, Rutgers at plus 6,000 on FanDuel. They
Are
return.
you really drinking the Kool-Aid for them?
So I'm basically doing this because they returned their core. Yes, their team wasn't that great last year, but this all hinges on the freshmen. Like if these
Okay.
freshmen are legit, then you have yourself a hell of a lottery ticket here. If not, you're gonna light this on fire in December. Like it could be done before we even get to the new year. So it's
Yeah.
just it was the best odds of a team, and I was like, how can I convince myself they could go far if these two are Ace Bailey and Harper are absolute studs. So those are the two teams I took long shots on. Obviously, you like Jordan said, don't put a lot of money on it because you don't know where this is going to trend. But those are the teams. If I'm going to take a shot on, I'll take a shot on them
Yeah.
too.
Well, and the other thing too, let's just take math into account here. Only one team since 2011 has won the national title that was not in Ken Palm's preseason top 10.
Okay.
And that is UConn from, what was it, 2013, the
Uh,
Shabazz year?
yeah.
these teams are not in the top 10, fun fact, which means you're already going against math of the
Uh-huh.
last 25 years. But yeah, so that also plays into the fact here. So I will say really quick on your Rutgers play, I'm thinking about this now. The books are heavily on top of these freshmen, probably outperforming expectation.
Yep. Mhm.
I almost wonder if you want them to come and stumble out of the gates a little bit and see if
Yep.
the books alter their odds a bit, and then see if maybe these young guys figure it out in December and January. And now you're sitting with a better number that you maybe got in early December when they were, 2-5 or whatever, right? Because they didn't come out hot.
Yeah, so I'm looking at their schedule right now. They're definitely going to start out 6-0. Their schedule
Okay.
is
Well,
absolutely terrible. But then right before they start conference schedule, they play Alabama. They're probably going to get mopped by Alabama. So right
yeah.
then, when they
Yeah.
get absolutely destroyed by Alabama, hop on them.
Or you're giddy as a little schoolboy if they
Yeah,
play within 10 of Bama because now you got
yeah,
the hot ticket.
exactly. If they end
Okay.
up going into Big Ten play with that win over Bama, then this isn't going to be plus 6,000
Okay,
anymore.
cool. I'm gonna just spoil now based on us both saying things. Do we have the same national title pick?
I'm pretty sure we do.
I think we do too. Damn it.
Go ahead.
I said they were my national title pick last year. I'm gonna run it back. A team that was littered with injuries going into
Yeah.
the tournament. It's Houston. It's plus 1500. You took a lot of the fire out. Four starters coming back. Nine players total from the team returning, and they're being led by last year's All-American honorable mention, LJ Cryer.
Yeah.
If there is a formula to beat the Bamas of the world, to beat the Yukons of the world, it's Houston. And I said for Bama, if not now, when for the Final Four, Houston, you have been on top of it for
Exactly. Yeah.
5 years. If not now, when are
Yeah.
you ever going to win another national title? So
Yeah.
I'm on Houston plus 1500.
Yeah. I'm obviously doing the exact same thing. The only stat I have that you didn't say is just that, just like Alabama, how we're going to be watching them all season long, we're going to be watching Houston all season long. They
Yeah.
have 8 games currently against top 11 teams. They're going to be absolutely tested, ready for March. I'm in on Houston. It's a loaded roster.
I have a bad feeling now about my
So
pick, but also at the same time, like we have accidentally backed ourselves into Houston being our pod team.
yeah, yeah, top
And
five
UAB
team.
could
Yeah,
be the long shot pod team that
yeah,
it's fun to watch, but really we're all
yeah,
in on Houston.
yeah,
So I guess I gotta go
yeah.
get some Houston gear. Damn.
Yeah, and guys, we did not talk about this at all. All we
Oh my
said is pick
God.
4 or 5 of your favorite futures and then pick your national title. We had
Yeah.
no conversations about this.
You know what's even better about this now, why I'm actually convincing myself Houston's a good pick, is they've kind of been a football school the last
Yeah,
10 years. They suck this year at
yeah,
football. They stink.
yeah.
So what better than to be better at basketball than this year? Holy shit. I cannot believe when you said that to start, I was like, in what world?
Yeah.
Of all the teams that we could have picked, we somehow landed both on Houston.
Yeah.
Okay, well I guess you know where we stand this year, everyone.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, what's also crazy is like even our other ones, even our long shots hit with somebody else's like pick of a conference.
Yeah,
It just
this is wild. Well, this is just a wild start to season
yeah.
5. Holy
Yep.
smokes.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining this podcast and joining our very first one of the season. We will be back next week. We still haven't locked in our schedule, but expect it once a week. We, of course, will be submitting our picks on Twitter. So, again, we're going to try to focus more on just ball and bets during our podcast and not go through every single game. But your Twitter is at.
I don't remember.
All right. Well, you're already following Jordan if you're listening to this podcast. For
I
5
know
years.
my name on there is Jordy Page Views. I think it's at Mingo Made
Okay.
1. At
Okay.
Mingo Made 1, maybe.
That sounds
I don't
about
know.
right.
We'll drop it in the description of
Yep.
the show. You'll figure it out there.
And then mine's at Kyle Clip. You guys are already following us if you're listening to the pod, though.
Probably.
Again, we're going to be trying to figure out a different way to make it shorter throughout the season, so we won't be going through all the games, but you can get our picks on Twitter. A reminder: I'm 2-1-1 against Jordan so far in the picks for the podcast, but Slight lead. Enjoy the start of the season, though. Monday is when all the games tip off, especially Texas, Ohio State, and Baylor Gonzaga. If you can stay up past midnight on Monday night because it doesn't start till 11:30. But best of luck in your bets. Check out our Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us, and can't wait to talk to you throughout the season.
Love you guys.